Hi, this is Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist with Baby Bloom Nutrition, and welcome to Nap Time Nutrition. I'm taking a break from my intense Passover cleaning to be here with you to talk about flavor development and how infants develop flavor. And our special silent guest today is Lori from SLP Feeding Therapy, who's going to be looking at the comments to see if there are any questions that she can address from a feeding therapist perspective. So that's exciting. I know that I have had a question recently about, I've called it food packing. I think that there's a different feeding therapist term for it, but when toddlers and small children eat and shove their cheeks full of food instead of actually chewing and swallowing. And that's really more of a feeding therapist type of question. So Lori is going to take that one in the comments, and as well as looking at any of your questions, and we'll address them. And I just got a thumbs up. Good. I'm glad that one works for you. So you can find me on Pinterest, pinterest.com/Yaffi, Y-A-F-F-I, Instagram, babybloomnutr, on the web at babybloomnutrition.com. Come to my toddler test kitchen classes at the Hallie Hart Children's Museum, where this Saturday and the coming Monday we're going to be doing sweet potato gnocchi, and Lakita from Tandem Trouble is going to be teaching that, so that's going to be awesome. And also, I've been building up my membership site, so you should join, and right now there's a selective eating webinar, and I'm going to have a few other things up. A very exciting interview with Dr. Mona Morstein, naturopathic doctor, on food allergies. Are we allergic to food or what we've done to food? So that's coming soon, as well as a bunch of other fun stuff. So stay tuned. So how do babies develop taste? Well, it's really interesting. They get their nutrition in utero. When they're still in the uterus, they get their nutrition through the placenta and through the umbilical cord. But they actually start developing taste and smell at 21 weeks of gestation, halfway through the pregnancy, a little bit more than half. And it's really interesting. Why would that happen? If they're getting their nutrition through their belly buttons, well, they actually do swallow a few ounces per day of amniotic fluid. And the amniotic fluid, just like breast milk, actually reflects the mother's diet. And there have been numerous studies with this. Most notably, recently, the Monell Chemical Senses Center, I forgot the person who ran this. It was Julie Medella, I think, did a study. So far, vanilla, carrot, garlic, anise, and mint have been detected from the mother's diet in the amniotic fluid. And I'm going to tell you how the study was conducted. It's really impressive and weird. All flavors that have been tested have been found to be present in the amniotic fluid, which is so interesting. It's not something that we really think about, the fetus actually being able to taste and smell, because they're encapsulated. They have this much different environment than what we're used to as people on, Earth side, as I've heard people call it, where we're surrounded by air. We have air to smell, we have food to taste, but babies in utero actually do start developing their taste buds. So what they did at the Monell Chemical Senses Center was they studied women who were pregnant. They had them take capsules of garlic, for instance. One of the studies was garlic. And then they took a sample of their amniotic fluid. And other people who were part of a panel had to smell the amniotic fluid to see if they could detect what they were testing. So if they could detect between one sample and another which was the one from the woman who had garlic, and they were able to tell, and it was pretty significant. So everything that they've tested, the panel of people who are amniotic fluid sniffers were able to tell which chemical they were testing. There was also a carrot study that was done in 2001, and the carrot study was women who were pregnant at different stages were told to consume a certain amount of carrot juice. And then when they were breastfeeding, other people were told to consume a certain amount of carrot juice. And what was on the other end of that is when their babies started actually eating food, they mixed the food, instead of with breast milk or water, they mixed it with carrot juice and noticed a difference. And the kids who were not exposed to this high amount of carrot juice in utero and during breastfeeding acted as if it was a foreign flavor. And the kids who had been exposed to it acted as though it was familiar. And you wonder how. Well, women were women were supposed to rate their kids, their babies, 6-month-old, their reaction based on how much they enjoyed it. And the kids who had been exposed to carrots enjoyed the carrot cereal more than the kids who hadn't been exposed to it. And they rated their facial expressions. And the kids who had not been exposed to carrots made more negative facial reactions when exposed to the carrot cereal. And it was super interesting. It proved subjectively, of course, that the kids were actually, they were familiar with the carrot flavor. And I just find that really fascinating. So where can we go with this? Well, biology tells us that kids avoid bitter. They like sweet and they like savory, which is why some marketing companies, a lot of kids marketing companies, will make kids snacks really sweet or really salty. And they don't need that. They do have really sensitive taste buds at that point. But things that are bitter are going to be seen as poison by the kids. And that's a biological thing where a lot of times things that are poison are bitter. And so we, through time, have learned to avoid things that are bitter. Of course, there are some things that are good that are bitter, like coffee. I've had repeated exposures today. But spinach, for example, has some bitter qualities to it, and kids might not respond well to that right away. They need repeated exposures, and the reason they don't respond to that is because they're programmed to equate bitter with poison. So we need to be patient with our kids who are not really open to certain new flavors, who require repeated exposure. The reason why they need repeated exposure is because they see it as poison, and the more you put it in front of them and the more they trust you as the parent, the more they're going to be willing to try that food because they know coming from you that it's not poison. And the reason why they get this food neophobia somewhere between 10 and 12 months, depending on the child, is because at that age, it's when they really start to become more mobile. And little cave babies, for example, would wander out and might grab something and eat it. And so we learned to be scared of new foods as a defense mechanism. So it's really good to keep that in mind when you have a child who's really hesitant when it comes to new foods. They're really just trying to avoid being poisoned. So kids really get introduced to flavors through amniotic fluid, which is the big surprise, and through breast milk as well. So the more a mother, while pregnant and while breastfeeding, has a varied diet, the more different and varied flavors the child is going to be exposed to. And we can use that to our advantage. So if you are currently pregnant or if you are currently breastfeeding, really diversify your diet. Try to eat as much as possible. Try to get as much variety in your diet as possible, because that is getting through to your child, and that is making that food a familiar food, which is going to make your child more willing to try new foods and more willing to try those foods. Start during pregnancy and try some novel things. Try things you haven't tried before. Or if you have a particular cultural background and you really want your kid to be into that, really focus on those foods. I read an article about a woman who was Chinese who really wanted her child to be into authentic Chinese cuisine, although she was living in America. So she really focused on that during her pregnancy and breastfeeding, eating those foods so that her child would be familiar with them and enjoy them, and they could enjoy them together. So that's what I have for you today. And as I said, Lori from SLP Feeding Therapy is going to be looking through the comments to see if she can answer any questions that you might have. I haven't seen any questions come up, but she's going to be checking in about half an hour from now and beyond that. So if you have anything, please feel free. I will try to answer, and she'll take whatever questions are out of my scope of practice. So the next couple weeks are kind of crazy because of Passover. So next week I'm not going to be on, and the following week also I'll try to do some pre-recorded videos to get up for you just so we can, I can keep the momentum going. And if you have any ideas for topics, please feel free to contact me. I have something fun in the works. I'm going to be interviewing a registered dietitian who is also a chef, and we're going to be talking about food properties and how things change when they're cooked, and how you can modify recipes and how you shouldn't modify recipes certain ways, which ingredients you really need to keep it a recipe So that's really fun. That's going to be coming up next month, but I'm really open to any suggestions. I have a question from Paula. I missed the beginning of this. I don't know what the questions are about. Oh, well, I have a feeding therapist who's going to be answering any questions if you have any questions that could be directed her way. So ask away. And I will be seeing you online, and I hope to hear any comments. You can find me on Pinterest, Instagram, the web. Come to my toddler test kitchen. It's so much fun. And check out my website, babybloomnutrition.com, for membership information and all kinds of fun stuff I have that's going to be exclusive to members of my website. And see you around, and if it applies to you, Chag Sameach.